Get into it.
Oh my.
Is it there?
Gosh. Our information is being stripped from us.
That's why people say that there's an agenda.
Wow.
Is that not it?
That
And again,
is-
you can look this stuff up.
You shape your own opinion based on the information and the facts that we've gathered.
All right. Oh my gosh. Okay.
It's finally happening.
It's happening.
I have this hair in my face.
I'm totally fine. Oh my God, I'm not crying, I promise you. I had like an itch in my throat. You know, when you have an itch in your throat, you start crying.
Yeah, you like hold it back and it makes it worse.
Yeah, it makes it worse. Oh my gosh, that story, that's hilarious. She had to, whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, the one where you're at the thing with Steve and the chief of police
Oh my God.
in your front row. And you're like holding in this cough. Then you know your throat just gets scratchier and itchier.
Like tears streaming down my face.
Hello, guys, and welcome to season 1, episode 1 of
Our life.
I forgot the name of Our Life Be Like podcast. Now, this is kind of a play on of words because, I mean, yes, we're going to be telling stories and giving our commentary of our lives, but a lot of the topics that we're going to be talking about is our life. If you're paying attention to what's going on in the world, there's a lot of things happening. And I feel like a lot of people have a lot of opinions about what's going on in the world. So our podcast, the best description of it is our take on controversial topics. We have been talking about this for a while now, guys. Like, you guys know that I have been wanting to do a podcast for almost 5 or 6 years now, but I didn't want to do a podcast by myself. You know, we've known each other now for 10 years. What made us even want to do this podcast now is a lot of stuff that's happened over the past 4 years. You know, the whole shift of the world has
There's
happened.
been such a shift.
And to have just an open conversation. Because,
so people know there's other people like thinking this way.
Exactly. Because I feel like a lot of people, a lot of the stuff that our podcast is going to be about, I feel like people are already having these conversations behind closed doors, but they will be called a conspiracy theorist or be called a bigot or be called all this stuff. And it's just like, once you realize conspiracy theory or a conspiracy theorist is just a weaponized term for critical thinkers.
Exactly.
Or a bigot just being a weaponized term for, hey, we don't actually agree with everything. It's not just because you're gay or you're transgender or you're this, that, and the third. It's your approach on it. Doesn't mean you're transphobic or doesn't mean you're a bigot. It just means you have questions like any other person would have. Ever since 2020, it really divided people
100%.
and it's so hard now to get people to like understand each other because of that. But I mean,
that's why we're here.
You pick your poison, I guess. You know, like, again, we say like you either choose the red pill or the blue pill, and you people over here like, well, we chose the red pill. In our case, we're just aware that there is a red pill and that there is a blue pill.
Exactly.
We're not taking any of the
pill.
Yeah, we're down to question and critically think about what's going on in the world.
The time we're at right now, if you're not questioning, maybe you should start to, because there's a lot going on. We're basically here to show you what we have discovered and just, you know, you shape your own opinion based on the information and the facts that we've gathered, because they're just really interesting, intriguing topics of conversation. It's just hard for us to not share these things.
I know. I mean, we have these conversations every day. I mean, we talk every single day, multiple times a day.
And we're like, you know what? At this point, let's
stop
save
talking,
it for the podcast.
save it for the podcast.
Yeah.
So our podcast mainly is, again, going to be talking about controversial topics. This first episode, what we plan to do is just kind of give you more of a deep dive on us.
Who we are.
Yeah, because I feel like on every other episode, we have a topic, but I feel like we're not going to really give y'all the full where we've been, where we went, and where we are now. So that's kind of this first episode. So bear with us, okay, guys? For a lot of my followers, you know, where I left off was really in 2016, where I quit cussing. I broke up with my boyfriend and I found God but I feel like there was just so many heavy hitters in my life that I didn't know how do you sit back and talk about it, because I'm also struggling at this time with being gay, but also finding Jesus, but also Jesus never telling me, hey, it's your sexuality. To me, the first thing, which I talked about in, a YouTube video I did of why I quit cussing, when I came to Jesus, what he told me to stop was cussing, which I feel like, again, the thing after that he told me was, now don't you dare go tell other people stop cussing, because this is what Jesus told me. So I do feel like, when you have this come to Jesus moment, everybody's come to Jesus moment is different, and everybody's life lesson is different. And then when you start to apply your life lessons to other people's life lessons, that's when you get judgy. And I didn't want to be that way. So I didn't want to just, come to the internet and be like, hey, so because I'm like, but wait, I think I still have a lot of learning to do. But again, like, how do you do this learning when all you've known for the past 3-4 years is share your life on the internet? So there was just has been this break of leaving the internet and then coming back to address some drama, which you already know about, which I've deleted that off my YouTube channel now. That was what I felt forced to come back to. And then I've just come back to TikTok and, just started my life. And I feel like some of you guys are just kind of like, oh my God, wait, but what about Jesus? What about your best friend getting possessed? Like, where is all this stuff? And, I've tried to fill in the blanks, but it's hard to do that when you're still learning the process and you're also, dealing with life struggles. So I feel like this would be a good episode to just kind of give, again, where we've been, where we went, and where we are now. And I mean, I feel like we're going to be pretty candid about our journey to where we are now. So do you think this is a good segue to just kind of like get into?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it all started.
Story time.
Story time. I guess we can start with the year 2013, because that's when I first started on Vine. I think Vine started like January of 2013. I got on it in March of 2013 and then got big on it, or started to get big on it, in June of 2013. The year prior to that, I was a lost puppy in the world. I mean, I had quit college. I feel like you and I have both had these like off-camera conversations of, we knew the public eye was going to be part of our lives. And I knew this at the age of like 12 or 13. I remember telling my mom, not in a conceited way, just in like I just know what I'm going to do. It's going to be in the public eye. Like, not like, oh, picture's famous. But I remember telling my mom when I was 12 or 13, we were walking into Target and I was like, I just know one day I'm going to walk into this Target and people are going to know who I am. And my mom's like, okay. Like, sounds good. I just didn't know how that path was going to be. At first, growing up, I was like, well, it's going to be sports because, I played basketball and then I played volleyball in college. But then I was like, well, maybe it's going to be singing. I auditioned for American Idol and X Factor.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
I know.
That's so crazy that you did that. Which number did you get to? Wasn't it like...
We may not talk about the numbers, but I did make it to the second round of American Idol, not to Hollywood, just so the crazy. Judges, like the pre-judges. Yeah.
So you didn't get to meet like the judges.
No. I had friends that I met there that got to meet the judges.
Wow. That's so cool.
I was not good enough.
No, it wasn't meant for you in that moment.
I believe that.
Exactly.
100%. Obviously, in the moment, I didn't believe that. But now I'm like,
it's like it crushes your dreams.
It does.
I know.
But what was never crushed was that drive or that like I'm meant for something. Again, I during this time was not connected to God. I feel like you and I have had this conversation before. I always prayed, even before eating, before I went to sleep at night, I prayed to God, but I never had this connection with God. And I think that the number one thing of why that was because I knew I was gay. And I hadn't come to terms with that. I had only grown up being told the opposite, which again, coming episode 2 and 3, we're going to dive into this stuff.
We got some juicy stuff coming.
We have some juicy topics. So just bear with us, stay with us throughout this entire thing.
We want to make sure you guys know who we are.
Yeah, like that's...
So who you're actually getting this information from, the kind of people we are.
I feel exactly. Save your judgments. We're going to get there. We have a lot to cover in our episodes of podcast. Just bear with us. This is just where our thought process was prior to where we are now. So we're still in 2013. Okay, we've had a lot of growing since then.
That's how we've gotten to be like who we are today, basically.
I mean,
is our journeys.
A full 180. Like even just being out in LA, like it's a full 180 from when I was here a few years ago. Yeah, so I feel like there was this innate desire or innate know that I was meant for more. How I got there, I had no idea. So then I quit college and my parents were like, you got to get a job. I'm like, famous people don't have jobs. What are you talking about? But it wasn't like this like battle. I was just kind of, what am I going to do? I feel it, but like nothing's happening. So like, how do I make this happen? I'm like, okay, fine. I do want money. So I went and got a job at Sprint and met some incredible people at Sprint. I have a lot of stories from Sprint, which again, some of my people that are watching this or listening to this, you know, I got fired from Sprint.
He got fired? I didn't know you got fired.
Yeah, maybe we'll get into that later. But Mama got fired from Sprint. Deserved, I think. Deserved. Maybe a good talking to. Maybe not fired. But the manager did not like me. Did not like me one bit. I think I was just a lot of personality for him.
How funny.
And a lot of personality for that job. And not only at this particular location, not only were you supposed to sell phones, you're supposed to fix phones. Guys, I repel technology, okay? So I just never really grasped that concept of it. So along with everything else that happened, I got fired.
Wait, okay, so were you doing Vine at this point when you were at
this
Sprint?
was 2012.
Okay.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh, how crazy that we met like a couple years later.
2 years later.
And you were like Sprint, and
I know.
Not that's but that's just crazy.
No, I'm saying like
it was like so fast.
I know. That was just the year before. And then in 2013, after I got fired from that, I got a job as a vet tech, which that's just a fancier job for vet assistant, because there's people who actually are licensed vet tech. Like I didn't have a license. I was just a vet assistant. Quick learner, because I grew up on a farm. I love animals. That's actually what I wanted to do, was become a veterinarian. Just didn't have the smarts or the math like desire.
Why do we need math to be a veterinarian? That's what I want to know.
Because you have to be able to draw the medicine in the correct dose, make sure that
Google is for. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, true.
Calculator.
I could have made it. I mean, honestly, I feel like there's a website now of like for
100%
on-call veterinarians. You're like, there's a 150-pound pig. How much of this steroid do I give this?
Oh, 100%.
I could have made it. But at that time, I was just overwhelmed. It
wasn't meant to be, though.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
So I got the job technically like December 25th of 2012. Going into the new year, my first 2 weeks as a vet assistant, oh my God, I was just like, I'm not cut out for this.
Oh my God.
It's the worst. Like, what am I going to do? But then I, got the knack of it. Again, I was a quick learner. And then, so as January, February, March approach, I'm like, I'm in it. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to school. It's like a 2-year degree, I guess, to get your vet tech license. But there were some schools, like community colleges, that you could get it in like 6 months or something. Like, so it seemed realistic for me at the time. Well, around that time, around like February, March of 2013 was when I was like, you know what? I want to give this singing thing another shot. X Factor had come back around. They go every year.
They go to like the different cities.
Go to the different cities. And they had just had, I can't remember where it was, but it was in driving distance. And me and a couple of my friends, they came to support me. And we were out to dinner one night, the day before the auditions. And she goes, have you heard of the app called Vine? And I'm like, girl, no. Like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, it's like this 6-second app and it's so cool. You need to download it. And I shut it down to start with. I'm like, I ain't got time for no Vine. Like, this just sounds like I'm just learning Instagram at this point. Like, I'm still trying to do cute photos. No, I don't have time for Vine. And the more, I was hanging around her, she was always on Vine. And I feel like it wasn't what like summer 2013 was. It was still kind of developing. Like people were really like building out, what Vine would soon become. So I started doing a little bitty stuff, and then I started filming in my car, like the whole selfie camera, let's tell jokes in my little vet tech outfit. So that was kind of how I built out my early 2013s. And then I got randomly big. A month and a half later, I started showing up on the Rise page, and then I was on the Popular Now page. And I'm like, gosh. Like
he's
maybe
becoming a superstar.
He's becoming the superstar. But again, at that time, I had no idea it would be the success that, like, what I was thinking, like the feeling inside. I had no idea that's what it would become. This was just happening like in real time. Then it was around like October of 2013 was when I had my first 2 brand deals. I think I might have had like $4,000 in my banking account. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
balling.
I'm balling right now. So I quit my job, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to move to LA. And by this time, I had met people or had been texting
like
with people.
Other
Viners. They were all in LA.
Yeah.
Now, I had different content than them, but I just felt like I needed to be in LA to become or do what, the dream, LA dream. Hogwash. You could be anywhere.
It's a nightmare, actually. It's not a dream.
It's literally a soul sucker, which we have found out.
We'll definitely be getting into that.
I had moved out to LA in January of 2014, and it was the biggest year of my life. I made the most money I've ever made in my entire life. Came out here at that point after booking the Airbnb. I had $1,500 in my banking account, and which again, to me, I'm like, like I'm balling. And I had booked an Airbnb for a month, had the $1,500 to, I guess, hold me over while I was here. And it clicked. Brand deal. And I'm making money. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where I'm going to be. So I got my first apartment.
You and I met
we met in February.
That, right?
No, we met in February of 2014, like a week before Valentine's Day.
And it was right before you actually this was before you got your apartment, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't had my apartment yet. I think I got my apartment in like March. And then we get to maybe mid 2014, that innate God presenting himself, I guess, to me came back out. And I'm like, I haven't told these people I'm gay. When I
remember
met you, I hadn't come out.
I knew he was gay, and I was like, I know, and I clicked with him. I was like, oh, he's going to be my new gay best friend.
Not the gay best friend.
GBF. And yeah, I knew it, but you hadn't told anybody at that point. And so it was like speculation. So yeah, think how far you've come.
I made a YouTube video. I had started on YouTube. At this point, I was not educated on God or even open to God. Like this is something you have to do by yourself. This isn't a Bible thing. This is the Holy Spirit is separate from the Bible. You need to have a conversation with the Lord. And I had not had that. I was scared. I felt ashamed. But again, God never made me feel ashamed. What people had told me God would think of me made me ashamed. And that's two completely different things. It's like the ultimate saying, Jesus never said that. That person said that. Make sure you differentiate. How do you say
Differentiate.
that? Differentiate. Differentiate the both. The two. So I hadn't done that. I hadn't been able to do that at that point. But I felt this need to be honest. So, and it was a very emotional video. I'm crying. I hadn't even told my family. My family found out through this video.
Oh my God.
My mom called me after she watched it crying, like, I love you. I know. It was no one. I mean, of course they had speculation.
Yeah.
But it had never been confirmed by me. I came out to a lot of my friends my junior year of high school. But obviously now I'm going high school, college, I'm out of college. Well, not out of college, but dropped out of college. I'm around the age of 21, coming out to LA. Yeah, I just felt like I was financially stable enough, had a career. I don't care about the backlash because I'm good. It's not like my parents can kick me out of their house. I'm good. So let me be my full self and be honest. Then, Vine was starting to come to an end in 2015, and I had met my boyfriend at the beginning of 2016. This is the first boyfriend I've ever had. And it was just a lot. At that point, I still hadn't processed my relationship with God. I hadn't processed the money I was making. I hadn't processed where I would be 2 years from now, 5 years from now. I was just moving and I could feel nothing. Like I had a beautiful boyfriend, making great money, drove a great car, lived in a nice place, and I could feel nothing. I had no connection with what I was doing. So I sought out a therapist because I was waking up every day crying. Like, I'm just like, what? I don't connect. Like, I cannot connect with anything. And it wasn't, I was crying because I was gay. You know, like people are like, oh, depressed people are gay because you are wrong in who you are. And like God, that's, God being removed from you. That's not the case at all, actually. It's just, which we have an episode coming up about gut health and, the connection of the brain and the gut, so we'll get into that. And my therapist told me I needed to get everybody out of my life and to find a spiritual path. While all of this was happening simultaneously, of the not feeling the non-connection, I guess you would say depression. I think it was more situational depression. I kind of feel like there was just a lot that was happening all at once. I didn't know how I could break up with my boyfriend. I didn't know how I could get everybody out of my life and find the spiritual sense. But again, about a week later, after I had that meeting, or is it therapist meetings or is it sessions?
Yeah,
after I had that session with my therapist, I had posted a video on my YouTube channel called Live Exorcisms. And at this time, I had no concept of, yes, I knew it was real, but there was no connection of like, this is real. Angels, demons, God, devil. It was just kind of like something you joke about, but you knew was real, but you really didn't have a connection with. And I remember filming this video, and my best friend, he would watch all of my YouTube videos up until this point. Every Wednesday, he was on it like freaking white on rice, honey. Would tell me his thoughts, whatever. I would make changes where I needed to make changes. I view him as like a mirror. If I have something going on in my life, he knows. When he has something going on in his life, I know. We call each other out, we straighten each other out, whatever. So I had him was like, hey, watch this episode I just filmed. And he was like, okay, cool. What is it called? And I was like, reacting to live exorcism. He immediately shut down. I was just kind of like, what are you not telling me? Like, well, is there something going on? I don't know, honestly, like what my whole thought process, but I was a little bit offended because years, prior to this, he was watching my stuff. So like, why now? So I was just kind of like, okay, fine. Like, cool. Don't watch the episode. Like, it's going out the next day, which, that was Tuesday night, on a Tuesday night. And so it went out. The next day, he had come up to me and he was just kind of like, I have something I want to talk to you about. I don't know what I thought this conversation was going to be, but it was not what it was. I don't want to press you about this. It actually took him almost 3 or 4 days after the initial, like, I want to have a conversation with you, did he finally tell me that he had been possessed by 7 demons. You can imagine, like, what? How? When? Are you good now?
Like, how do you know it was 7?
How do you know it was 7?
Yeah.
Like, right?
What?
Like, so many questions. I'm like, mind blown. However, I knew he was being honest. He's a mirror in my life. I felt it. It was like connected, like what? He couldn't tell the full story because it was like in and out access is how he describes it. Like he was like in a black room looking through his eyes at his parents.
So creepy.
His mouth moving, hearing stuff, but not really. He tells me he knew what was happening because obviously he grew up in the church, but how would this happen to me? It's like his mindset, like, oh my gosh, this is.
And this was how, like, much prior before?
I believe 3 years.
Oh, okay.
I believe it happened. His possession happened in 2000. Actually, I think 4 years. I think his possession happened in 2012. I could be wrong. So obviously, like anybody, you need to know more. So we had a phone call with his parents because it happened at his house. Imagine me hearing this conversation and the conviction and the reality. Like you know what you know, kind of like when someone's being real. My mindset did a full 180. Again, sexuality was never pressed on my soul or on my spirit by God. It was how I act, how I spoke to people, how I forgave, how I treated people. That's all what was being worked on in those moments and leading up from that moment to where I am now. It was never, I would say there was a shaping up of my sexuality. There was a be with one person kind of thing, because which we'll talk about in later episodes of having soul ties, with people and having that discernment. But as of right now, it was a lot. And it was too much for me to sit down and like fully process. I was able to talk about why I quit cussing. And, that's a lot of people saw that YouTube video, but I was still dealing with a lot. And this was leading up from the end of 2016 to 2017, in which I had found out all during this time that my manager, agent, and entertainment lawyer were all, I hate to use the word stealing from me, because they legally were able to do this. So in my head, I'm a millionaire. On paper, I have about $200,000 in my account. Well, when you are living out this rationale, I'm living as a millionaire, but the paper says something different. Well, just my apartment a year is like 80 grand at this point. So I couldn't have made it much longer after that, just off of my apartment expenses. But what's so funny and ironically is how I moved out to LA with $1,500 and I left LA with $1,500. My account manager, she messages me at the end of 2016 and sends me my bank statement. And again, in my head, I have over $1 million. Like, I know what I made. I know what I'm getting on these deals. Like, I'm good. Oh my God. Hey, Alex, this is the email they sent. I think it's now time to, maybe look for something else. And sends me my thing, $1,500. My heart sinks. But I will say, the Lord I felt like he was telling me this months prior. I was getting this, when it hit me, it didn't hit me like a Mack truck. It hit me like, this is it. This is what I had been feeling for a while now. So I had moved back to North Carolina in 2017 and was starting to maybe a little bit financially recover, a little bit, but not much, because I'm still dealing with this reality of like, oh my God, God's there. Like, how do I continue with this career? What do I do? But I also need to make money. How do I navigate this, situation that I'm currently in? So I moved into my own place in 2017, and then I hate to say depression, but situational depression set in again in 2018. So I moved back in with my parents, and now here we are in 2019 at this point, and I'm living with my parents, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, at this point, I'm like 28 years old. I've had all this, success, and now here I am. It was it was a humbling experience, but not something I was fighting. I was down for the humbleness because I knew God was rebuilding my foundation. He was just breaking it apart and it's like, no, I'm going to rebuild you. But it was just the process. It was just like, God, when? Like, I'm tired of learning. Like, I feel like I've learned, like I've been through this. 2019, I had planned to live on my own in 2020. And then obviously 2020 happened.
Had a major curveball.
Yeah. And again, mind you, that 2020 is when I rescued, when I first started beginning to rescue my pigs.
Oh, the pigs.
My little piggies.
So cute.
You guys know, or if you don't know, I have 9 pigs that I rescued. So my dad, he has a pig farm. Every freaking time it seems like a little baby gets hurt, gets accidentally stepped on. Normally farmers can't do anything about it. And every single one that I rescued was like literally like legs like hanging off.
Alex is like eating bacon and like having pet pigs.
Listen, but I started TikTok and I came back as, kind of what I knew, like the sassiness, the little jokes or whatever, which that's my personality, to be sassy and jokey. But I was just caught in this hold up of I can't cuss. And I was still like trying to meet myself in the middle of this of just like, how can I create content without freaking cussing? Because I feel so convicted about it. Just like in my own life again, like everybody has their own conviction. I'm tired of the sassiness. That's what I had built my career on. The jokes, the one-liners, the comebacks. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to spread joy. I wanted to spread happiness. I just didn't know how this was, going to happen. And I had this come to Jesus moment. And I told God, I'm like, you know what? I'm leaving this entertainment industry. I'm going to get a job. Was done with it. I was like, maybe I'm pushing this. If this is not what you want from me, God, take it. Just, I need a direction at this point. Like, I'm sick of doing this on my own. If I am doing it on my own, I'm sick of it. Like, bring me to a direction. I met with the guy at FedEx And in my head, even driving there, I was like, God, if there is a ounce of me that you see that's not wanting this, take it. Like, I remember that was you. I was on the phone with you, you know, like going through these like little episodes of just like, I don't want this. Like, I take this from me, put me where I need to be. And I know that my relationship with you, God, is not off of feeling. It's off of faith. It's not how I feel right now. It's off of your promises and what you plan to do in my life. How that's going to happen, I don't know, but I'm not going to do it on my own anymore. This entertainment stuff, I'm done. So I met with the FedEx guy. He said that the job was going to be posted for me to go ahead and, you know, apply for. Friday rolls around. He told me to send him a text. And I sent him a text, reluctantly, I will say, because, you know, like, it's so new at this point. Like, what, for the past 8 years, I had not worked a job, but like, I was not going to let that be the determining factor. This is what's going to happen. I know that if I'm here, God's going to settle it, make me happy, whatever. And he didn't respond. So then that next week, I had this conversation with God again. And I was like, God, I went to the meeting. I'm ready to apply for this job. I'm done. I have no more inspiration. I have no more desire to do any of this. And I cannot continue this career of entertainment unless you put something over my life. The next day, I go upstairs and I look at the mom wig, which is now the mom wig. But at that time, it was just a wig, you know, a ratty little wig. And I had this inspiration come over me of doing a mom character. And so now here we are in 2023. Just a week prior to this in 2021, I was calling you. I'm crying. I don't feel myself. I was back to where I was back in 2014, 15. And again, Christians outside looking in, well, he's wearing a wig, woman's clothes. What about Deuteronomy? Stay for our third episode because we're going to get into the Bible tea of all of this. But how ironic was it that the Lord placed this over me? Now where I'm at is rebuilding my finances, rebuilding my life. My whole outlook on life is completely different to where I was just a couple of years ago. I figured now is the right time to sit back, create a podcast with one of my best friends, and really hash out, like, what have we been through the past couple of years? What are our outtakes on life? Like, what is, because again, ever since 2020, there's just been a lot of talk, you know, which again, we'll get into later in the season. We're finally creating this podcast where I'm finally back in LA with a whole new outlook on where I see my career. Now, you have a very interesting, inspirational life. And from the same time points, even maybe a year or two earlier than I did. So I kind of want you to go through the same sectors of life, where you were, where you went, and where you are now.
Yeah, so I definitely have had quite an interesting journey that's led me to where I am now, and who I am now. You know, I've grown so much as a person, and where I started is definitely nowhere close to where I'm at now as a person. I started off wanting desperately to be in the entertainment industry. Same thing. I grew up, I was like meant to be in front of the camera. I knew I was supposed to be an entertainer of some sort.
And she's small town Pennsylvania.
Yeah, okay. Actually, which is ironic because I went to theater school with Taylor Swift.
Oh, I forgot about this.
So we like went to this theater school in Reading, Pennsylvania. She's now Taylor Swift, right? You know.
Well, you're Kayla Collins, so.
I sang growing up as well. But I had the worst stage fright ever. I do like solos in school, and they'd have me up on the stage, and I'd literally be like, like when I'd sing, I'd be so scared to be in front of everybody. It was crazy because I wanted to do it so bad and I had the talent, but I was so scared when I get up there in front of everybody, be like, oh my gosh, what will they think? And I just was so worried about what everybody else thought. which is so annoying and something, we all need to work through. Me in particular, I care too much sometimes about what other people think, and I really shouldn't. I modeled, like I was in like Teen Magazine with like the little friendship bracelet ads.
And again, you guys know that I was also a model.
Oh.
But it was like the scammy, like, the small town. I don't want to say the name, but, like you pay to do
everybody. Oh my gosh, you remember the glamour shots? Like malls used to have the glamour shots. Yeah. Did you do the glamour
I was the victim of the glamour shots.
No.
I paid. I like went to this school and like,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was called, I don't know what type of modeling it was. Oh, mannequin modeling.
Oh, mannequin.
I like stood out front of a store in a mall and I'm like,
but, okay, so for everybody who like wants to be in the entertainment industry, it's not all it's cracked up to be.
No, it's definitely smoke and mirrors. But again, we don't look back at it and be like, oh, why did I do this? It's like, thank God I'm not doing this now. You live and you learn kind of
For
situation.
sure. And, some would say like manifesting, which...
We have our own idea of manifesting. Again, like we say, there is manifesting, but we kind of call it God-ifesting. But the idea of manifesting is like, I did this. But in reality, I mean,
it's God. God knows your... every step of the way.
For sure.
Because
I mean, even the Bible says life and death is in the power of the tongue. So you speak life over people, you speak curses over people, and you can do this to yourself as well. So, I mean, I definitely think that building out our dreams was the ultimate thing that we were doing during this time. We just didn't realize or know how this would take place, how this would happen.
And these are really like the most important years of your life where you're kind of like deciding what you're going to do when you're growing up. You kind of are like manifesting into this next phase of your life. So I knew that I was going to be in the entertainment industry, really didn't know what. I went to college for, my major was business marketing, which I've always been really passionate about. I was an intern at a marketing firm when I was in high school still.
She's the jack of all trades. I will say she has her hand in everything.
Yeah, I'm really good at that side of things too, like behind the scenes marketing, really enjoy it, but I didn't know if that's like where I saw my life going. And I always wanted to live in California. I always wanted to see something more than what I was seeing in little small town Pennsylvania. I wanted to get out of there. I knew I was going to live in California since I was like 14 years old. And I had this goal for probably since I was like 16. It really started when my ex-boyfriend, at the time boyfriend, had these posters of like Jenny McCarthy, Pamela Anderson,
Playboy models.
All the most famous Playboy models on his wall. And I was like, that looks like me. I could literally do that. I could be that. Just like knew in my heart and in my head, I was like, I'm going to be a Playmate. Continue on with what I was doing. I was in college and I was working as a waitress at this place called Friendly's. It was like a little ice cream shop diner. And I was, Mama was making the tips. I was like rolling in dough. Okay.
I can imagine. But you're dating the boyfriend still at this time?
No, so we broke up. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I was 18 at this point, and he was like around 15, 16 that I was like with this guy. Those
like
teenage love affairs.
For sure. But you still had in the back of your head about this Playboy, like, this is what he was into. And
it wasn't even about him anymore. It was just like, I was inspired because I was like, I literally look like those girls. Why could I not do that?
For sure.
And then I thought to myself, well, that could be a stepping stone for me to get into the entertainment industry. So I just kind of like always had it in my head that would be a good way to start because I know I could easily do that, is kind of what my thought process was.
For sure. And again, I just want to say, I mean, this woman has done a full 180. So before you have some preconceived judgment and idea, I do get offended by this, okay? Because we all started with something, an idea, whatever it is, and we learned and we grew from it. And guess what? We can talk about it. So let the story unfold and continue.
And mind you, I come from a very solid upbringing. I have a Christian upbringing. My parents were both Bible study leaders.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Mom.
That's her mom.
And
Cheryl got them together, okay?
Yeah, I wasn't even allowed to listen to secular music. So
period. Come on, secular music, Nick.
I had to ask permission to listen to like Aaliyah or Mariah Carey. Like I couldn't even listen. Yeah, couldn't watch MTV. Like everything was restricted for me. I was
and again,
very
as you're
sheltered.
saying, like it's you grew up in that household of the Bible study, going to the church. Well, that brings me back to how I said there's a difference of knowing the Bible and having a one-on-one relationship with God, which we'll get into later. But anyways.
Then The Girls Next Door started to air on E. And
you were on MySpace at this time, though.
So I was on MySpace, and I was like total Playboy fan. I was like a MySpace coder.
You guys know the MySpace era. If you were not here for the MySpace era, we were our own technicians. We were hackers. We were coders.
Yeah, we knew
engineers.
HTML, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah,
it wasn't just posting a picture.
I had the little sparkly spinning Playboy bunnies on my
Which was
profile.
its own specific code.
It was.
Because you could have it like there but not spinning. You had to code it to
make it spin, all these different things. Yeah, it was pretty epic.
What a time to be alive.
Literally.
I love it.
So yeah, I had my profile all decked out, and I had like decorations in my room of Playboy too. Like I had amateur little pictures, like not sexual at all. Just thought I was being cute in my room, like posing up next to my like Playboy mirrors.
Right, for sure.
And I just looked up the girls that were Hef's girlfriends at the time.
Which were
Holly, Bridget, and Kendra. So I added them all just as friends, not thinking much of it. And Holly sent me a message and said I should really consider testing for Playboy.
How random.
So crazy.
Like what?
Yeah.
That is insane to me.
Yeah. So that made me freak out. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I called my mom. I still remember, I remember where I was. And I'm like in my car, so excited, just got this message thinking I can't wait, this is so cool. So I call my mom and I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom, this is what I need. Like, this is a stepping stone for me. This could get my foot in the door of the entertainment industry. And she's freaking out like, no, you have to sleep your way to get into that industry. And there's no way, like, you're not doing this. It kind of freaked me out. And I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't. I just kind of let it go. That was when I was 18. A few years went by and I had a trip planned out to California. So I ended up going back onto MySpace and sending Holly a message and telling her that I was taking a trip out to California. She was like so excited, and she sent me pictures like holding her MySpace number, so I knew it was 100% her.
MySpace days.
I know. Do you guys remember the MySpace numbers?
Yes.
Like our own code. Gave me the numbers for the studio to confirm that it was her, and she said, you should do a test shoot while you're out here. And, this was 2 years that I had kept in touch with Holly on MySpace.
So you're 20, almost 20 at this point.
Yeah, I'm 20 at this point, yeah. Before I went, she sent me an email and she's like, hey, the camera crew thinks it's really interesting that you're coming out, and we met on MySpace, and they want to do a segment on the show of your test shoot.
Next Door.
Yeah, on the Girls Next Door.
Right.
So they shot the whole experience of us, from me and 2 other girls doing a test shoot coming out. The day that I was shooting, Hef hadn't been at the studio since it was built in the 70s. They had him come out on the day of my shoot, and I'm like in the middle of my shoot.
Butt a ball naked.
Just butt naked. And Hugh Hefner walks in.
Wow.
And so I got off, the bed that was like on the set and got down and gave him a hug, because it was just like, what else do I do? I was like, hi, nice to meet you. Like, this is awkward, but
I think what we kind of want to know too is, what is your mindset in this? Did you know going into what you would be previewed to? Like, how was that process?
So it was like all so professional that I wasn't, feeling uncomfortable or anything weird at all. And like, honestly, he just came off like a cute little old man to me at that point, because this was my first time meeting him. The shoot was so professional. The pictures were coming out so good that I was like, there's no way I'm not going to be a playmate. That's how I felt on the set. I felt like a natural.
Right.
From that point, a few weeks later, I got a call from Holly, and she told me that I was going to be a playmate. I was just like, all right, I'm moving to California. You know?
You hadn't told your dad at this point.
Oh, yeah. So I was scared to tell my parents.
For sure.
I was pretty scared how they were going to react, which thankfully they were both so supportive. I think that they really...
Well, they knew they had to be by your side.
Exactly.
Especially in this situation, because it could go completely south.
Exactly. And I got back from California. I took like tons of pictures. Like I have like kissy faces with Hef. Like we're like
all on your MySpace.
Yes. Yeah. So I like decked out my MySpace with these pictures. Like, for sure. This is the coolest thing ever.
She's showing the eggs at this point.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm going to be on your wall soon. I don't know his name. Eric.
Yeah. I was living with my dad at the time because my parents had gotten divorced. And I left my MySpace open on his computer. Oh my God. And he saw it and he ended up, he came up into my room and he said, so how was your trip to California? And I'm like, I had no idea that he
it was great.
Saw this. And I think he might have said something like, is there anything you want to tell me or whatever? And then I got into it and I explained and he was, he handled it really well. Good. I think both of my parents were, like you said, they didn't want to lose me to that world. They just wanted to be supportive. And I don't even think they realized how hardcore the entertainment industry was at this point.
They just had speculation. Yeah. They just knew we can't lose this communication while she goes into this world.
Exactly. Actually, my mom knew before my dad, surprisingly enough. And she was like making jokes like, oh, well, we could do a mother-daughter photo shoot.
Oh, Cheryl.
Which obviously not serious, but she was like being supportive.
Cheryl was plotting. She's like, I should do a couple test shoots. What do you mean?
Literally, I took that as an opportunity to just take the leap, move to California, and pick my life
your
up
morals.
There. Exactly. And so, I was only 20 at the time, and I moved out to California.
And she looked like this at 20 years old. I mean, like, you literally haven't aged a day.
Oh,
so
thank you.
I can imagine 20-year-old
I'm
Kayla.
trying.
I'm trying, guys.
We don't know how old I am now. We're just I've been 21 for like the past 10 years. 30 years. I'm 61 now, or no, 51 with that. 30 years. Okay, anyway. I celebrated my 21st birthday on the Girls Next Door. I was traveling with them. We were going all these different places. Like the time that I celebrated my 21st birthday, Hef was celebrating his 81st birthday. So we went to Vegas. It was surreal. And so, yeah, everybody, all the girls at the mansion were very catty. A lot of
which I've heard Holly say that.
Behind each other's backs. It was not a good environment for so many reasons. I have tons of stories beyond this of just...
Which you're going to write a book about. Yeah. Or you've already started writing your book about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And...
So wait for that one, guys.
Exactly. Lots of tea in there. The tea is piping hot.
We're going to be severely caffeinated after reading that book, okay?
Severely caffeinated. In my heart and in my thoughts with any interactions I have with people, I think that they have the best intentions because I think about what my intentions are, and it's never as pure. Like, I've been in so many situations in the entertainment industry all across the board, and I always think that people have the best intentions, and I can be naive at times. It was definitely it was such a wild experience, and I would love to get into it in a later episode, just all the things I've been through, because it's so deep. There's so much to it that it would take longer than just this first introduction to who we are. But we'll definitely be giving you guys some more insight and behind the scenes into our lives.
For sure. Well, how did you branch out from Playboy to you were on the show? Yeah.
So at that point, maybe like 25, I think I was, I was like out one night, and there was like this super famous soccer player that was like asked his friend to come up and get my number, which I was like, ew.
He was from the UK.
Yeah, he's from the UK.
Okay, got it, yeah.
And I just thought it was like gross that he couldn't come up to me himself, but he was like apparently so famous that he, couldn't do it himself. He needed to send his friend over.
You were like, okay, fine.
yeah, basically. Then he sent me a text, just kind of trying to like get my attention, and I was like, not having it, just kind of blowing him off, like, ew, why is this guy texting me? Like, this is a turnoff.
I gave him my number. Why is he texting me?
I wasn't thinking of it as like, oh, I'm going to date this guy. I'm just like, oh, yeah, like we're cool, like friends, whatever. And he was like so persistent. And I was like, honestly, I'm too busy to be like talking to you. Because he was like, oh, come out to the UK. Like, you need to visit. And I'm like, the only way that I'm going to get out there is if like I have work out there. Sorry, but I'm too busy to be like taking a trip to visit you. And literally turns around and like 2 days gets me like management in the UK.
He does?
Yeah, that's actually kind of
okay. Awesome. I'll be there tomorrow.
Right. And they instantly, what do you think about being on this show? I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. And I'm just like pumped. Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
We'll play
like
some clips right around here so that you can see her on that show. I was shocked at the stuff she was doing.
So I didn't even believe that I could do that, you know? Told them no at first. I was like, yeah, sorry guys. I don't think this is the right fit. And yeah, so let's, back to the drawing board.
Right.
And that excited them. The fact that I was like, not into it.
I'm a celebrity, get me out of here.
Exactly.
Right. It's the premise of the show.
Exactly. So they were like really excited once they found out I wasn't super into it and basically booked me.
Like, your audition's tomorrow at 12.
So then like in a week, I was literally doing photo shoots for the opening credit. They had been going to the Australian rainforest for years at this point of the show. Flew out there and basically was thrown into the trenches yet again. But this is a totally different kind of trenches. They want you to suffer because that makes good TV.
Right.
Basically how it worked is you get paid your full amount if you don't say, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And I'm like,
okay. She said, I'm coming to get my
I'm a hustler. So I'm like, I am getting every
penny. Put a needle in my mouth.
Exactly. That's what came next. So
the beetle in the mouth?
Yeah.
Oh,
basically.
Yeah. And again, UK is a lot different than the US on TV shows. So you coming off a very popular UK TV show, the paparazzi is like a whole different level.
So the UK, exactly. Like the paparazzi is insane.
It is. I mean, even YouTubers are like A-list celebrities.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they chase you around. So I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I ended up moving to the UK. I had these managers that were literally trying to sell my soul. That's another thing we could get into in the future. I didn't want that in my life and was basically just desperate to get back to California, get back to my life. So after that show, I went on to do all kinds of stuff in the entertainment industry, modeling, acting, commercials. I was in the Entourage movie. I did a movie with Nick Cannon, School Dance, a bunch of different commercials for Jack Daniels and Mini Cooper. But I never really felt like that was where my passion truly lied. There's tons of Playmates that do that. They go on from being in Playboy to acting and modeling. It was just the known thing.
Right.
And I wasn't happy in that. It was a constant struggle and stress and disappointment because the entertainment industry is just not what it seems.
So manipulative.
It's so manipulative. It's not as great money as people think either. And
well, that's one of the reasons why there's the current writer's strike and the SAG-AFTRA strike. And they make millions.
They are pretty pathetic. Yeah. I see Entourage playing all the time and I do get checks for it, but it's pretty minuscule. But then again, I didn't have a huge role in Entourage, so that's pretty cool. Get residual checks from it. Okay, cool. But again, it really didn't feel like that's where my passion was. Music has always really been a huge passion for me. Everybody around me, my friends, knew that music was a huge passion, and I was a closet DJ. I learned to DJ when I was 20, 21, when I first moved out to California, and it was a hobby that ended up being a career path.
And when I met her, she was DJ Dollface.
DJ Dolphin.
It's my favorite. I remember going over to her apartment and she'd play me the thing, her song, and then it would have the interlude. DJ Dollface.
DJ Dollface.
That was my favorite. We're actually going to a gig of hers tomorrow, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to Huntington Beach, and we just left the weekend before. We were at the highlight room watching you DJ. So
yeah, so it's been really fun. DJing has really helped me kind of break out of that stage fright shell, and I love it, but it's kind of been a rude awakening for me to see that, like, just because I'm in now a different sector of the entertainment industry, it's really kind of the same. Like, the entertainment industry in general is like a really tough world to be in because the people are not genuine. You know, the experiences that you encounter all the time are just like crappy. So with all that being said, I've grown so much as a person over this last 10 plus years with everything I've been through. I've
all the ups and downs.
Yes, and the lefts and the right.
Okay, and the back around.
Yes.
It's like, oh my lord.
It has been quite the journey, and where I'm at now is just nowhere where I was before. And I am just like, I care about different things now. I've just become a whole different person. Yeah. I have. And yeah, I've grown so much as a person. I'm so into like health and wellness now, and I'm in my healthy girl era.
Period. We love a healthy girl era. Come on, healthy girl queen. Era. Healthy. She's in her healthy girl era.
I mean, I just made him some bomb dinner.
Oh my God, the chickpea curry.
And he loves that.
It's my favorite.
And that is healthy and budget friendly.
She's going to write a recipe book too.
I do need to.
You should.
Yeah.
Because you already have one of those names trademarked.
You put it out there like as if I'm already, I mean, but why not?
You should.
I plan on doing something with my expertise.
Yeah, because she also cooks as well. So
Yeah.
that's something she's also passionate about.
I love it.
Yeah.
I can't wait to start sharing more of that. Like, I feel like when I put stuff out on social media of me, like, doing little cooking stuff, like, people are like, wait,
what is
she's a DJ and she's like making these cooking videos.
Right, they're like, just show us boobs. Like, what is this? And it's like, girlies,
so much more.
I'm more than that.
And I'm so excited to be able to share that. Like,
for sure. And the algorithm doesn't help with that either, because the algorithm now only wants to push what people engage more with.
Exactly.
So it's so hard to create something
to
new.
like break out of that shell. And that's why the whole Playboy thing has been like, ugh, it's a blessing and a curse. I've been like stuck in this like hole where I just feel like, you know, people only know me for certain things, like being like a sexy girl and a sexy girl DJ. And, you know, I'm so much more than that. And I know I started out with Playboy, so like I know people might like think that's like
who you are.
Yeah.
Where it defines
where
you are
like,
now.
That's literally not at all. That's why I say I've grown so much as a person.
Yeah.
It's been over 10 years, but it's something like I would never let define me, but it's such a big part of my life. And once you do that, it's like, look at all of the girls like Jenny McCarthy and Pamela Anderson that went on to do all of this different stuff, but it still goes back to they were a playmate.
Yeah.
So it's
but
like,
they can do all this like philanthropy and
well, I mean, and like huge, just everything. Like they do so much stuff outside of being a playmate, like acting roles and just everything. It's just that the Playboy had launched their career, so like they're once they're a playmate, they're always a playmate. That's what the saying always was.
And it's not like you're ashamed of that world. It's just also like you've just grown from it. And
exactly.
Well, it's a tough world to be in if you don't have a foundation. And if your foundation is not God, Jesus, it's a whole different entity.
Exactly. Without Jesus, and
you're constantly dealing with people who don't have Jesus.
Exactly. And they're challenging you,
what I mean.
You know, to try to basically get you to sell your soul at every step of the way, which has been a constant maneuver around these type of people, which it sucks because really the entertainment industry, like my mom was right all those years ago you know, sleeping your way to get to the top is kind of like right there in line with selling your soul. Like,
and how you maneuvered yourself is just another like God had you. Even in the same way I look at my life, even though I wasn't one-on-one, I knew he was there, but I didn't have that one-on-one, like, you're not judging me, you're convicting me kind of situation. he had me at every step of the way.
Yep.
So just looking at how you navigated and what you were put in and, you know, what you chose to do, how he still navigated you so that you still had your morals, your compass, he was there, is just like, it's a God-breathed situation, which on the outside looking in, we're looking, oh, she's a Playboy model. She's this, she's that. But what are the ins and outs that you were actually dealing with, what you were faced with, and what you chose to do and chose not to do? So, and that's actually, I feel like, why we've remained such great friends, is we have the same morals. Thank you guys so much. This was such a great first episode.
Yes.
Again, every other episode after this is going to be a lot different. I feel like we're going to have the topic. This was more of just kind of like a icebreaker, get to know us.
Exactly.
Again, like where we were, where we went, where we are now.
Yes.
So I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and we're excited to share our lives, share our opinions, and share our lives together here on Our Life Be Like podcast. Yeah, so this was such a great first episode, and we will see you guys next week. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you do all the things. Bye, guys.